All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam A.K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. We're going to talk about the Panama Canal. We're going to talk about T-Man, some of the crazy things he just said, and some believe not so crazy. We're going to, of course, talk about Finland and Estonia and the underwater sea cable that was just cut. These are World War III moves that are happening. We are 25 days away from a power change here in the United States. And many of us believe that this is when something will go down. This is when the biggest things will go down. We have 25 days, just over two pairs of 10s and a 5 of days that are coming. Panama's president has now responded to President-elect T-Man idea that his new administration could try to regain control of the Panama Canal. This is, of course, after Trump said on Sunday that the United States foolishly gave it away and is now being ripped off. At the waterway, Panama's conservative president, Jose Raul Molino, released a video declaring that every square meter of the canal belongs to Panama and will continue to belong to his country. Without mentioning the former and next president by name, Molino addressed Trump's complaints over rising fees and ships crossing the canal, saying that they are set by experts who take into account operational costs and supply and demand factors. Says, quote, "The tariffs are not set on a whim," Molino said. He noted that Panama has expanded the canal over the years to increase ship traffic on its own initiative, and added that shipping fee increases help pay for improvements. They say that pandemoniums, I guess you could call it now, may have different views on many issues. But when it comes to our canal and our sovereignty, we will all unite under the Panamanian flag. Trump then, of course, took to his social media site to offer his response. We'll see about that. He also posted a picture of a U.S. flag planted in the canal zone under the phrase, "Welcome to the United States Canal." So lots of big claims here. And again, this isn't the only thing he did in the last 48 hours. So again, saying that essentially, we should be taking back the canal, right? So it is, we're going to get into the statements about Canada, which again, Canada as well might as well be ours in the future if you go along with his tweet here. So we're covering that here in a second. I do want to say hello and welcome back, everybody. If you did have a good Christmas, I hope that you all had a blessed one. If you did not, I'm praying for you. I know that a lot of you emailed. Some of you guys are homeless still right now, and through Christmas, it was not the greatest. So again, I'm praying for those of you that did not have a family to have dinner with. For those that did spend that time with family, again, I'm sure that this kind of holiday is a reminder of what really is important. There's all these distractions, there's all these things going on right now. And again, I think that the most important part about our channel is just getting out the word that most of you should be trying to prepare yourselves for anything. And it does not have to be the end of the world. Again, it can be anything. It can be a storm. I just recently went through a 6-day power outage here in Seattle. It was pretty bad. And I can't imagine a whole year without power or something that was more permanent. So again, I hope that you all had a blessed Christmas. And I, of course, hope if you don't get to see me until after the new year, have a great one as well. Before we move on, I do want to make sure to protect yourself with an EMP shield if you haven't. We chose this years ago as an affiliate because we actually got to know the back end of this from people we knew. From one of the founders of this is actually in our community, is a prepper. And Andrew, one of the people that is the main person who really goes out and speaks about these things, is an awesome guy in general, but the company is something a step above. So this is a device that can actually protect your trucks, cars, motorcycles, boats, generators, pretty much anything against an EMP strike. We have been telling people for years to get this on them because if we do have an EMP strike here in the United States or anywhere in the world that you can get these, then you definitely want to be protected. If you work far from home, to be able to get home is a huge deal. So go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. Keep in mind, it also protects you against Also a Carrington level event from the sun. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. If you use the code MARF, you'll get $50 off with each device. And that's a huge deal, especially if you're trying to outfit either yourself or multiple cars, your family, or even extended family. So again, go over and check it out. There's always sales, and our code stacks on top of them. So let's bring in my co-host. And again, my co-host is now sick. My co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today? Dex.
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Fugel fam. I'm doing just fine, but I am sick, so a little under the weather. Not the way to celebrate the Christmas holiday.
So again, Dex, sorry you're feeling so crummy. And you said you got sick before Christmas, right? Christmas Eve or something, or?
Yeah, Christmas Eve is when it started to kick in, and yeah, it just was miserable from then on.
Well. And, you know, with all the crazy, rumors, all of a sudden in the last month, I will point this out, here in Washington, it's a different beast out here. People never stopped wearing the coverings. But I will say this, in the last month, I've seen more than really since like 2023, early 2023, when really even China backed off of their stuff. Like, I have never seen so many face coverings in my life. Even during the height of it, it was like there's so many face coverings in around Seattle right now. And I thought that's really weird. Is MSM like super, I was thinking in my head, is CNN like super reporting that there's this crazy strain or something? But, they've been talking about these weird things coming, the bird this, bird that. And honestly, I don't know why, but it is weird. I've talked to a lot of people that have gotten sick lately, and I just hope that there's not going to be something much like what happened in 2019, and the timing just about the same as well. So hopefully that does not happen. And then President-elect T-Man posts Christmas message, wonderful soldiers of China, and towards Governor Trudeau. And, of course, Greenland. So all of this will make sense here in a second. When you first see it, you're like, what the heck? So first of all, he was being sarcastic. He essentially wrote this message. Dex, are you able? I don't want to call on you if you're not able to, but
the main part about the Chinese soldiers, he said, "Merry Christmas to all, including the wonderful soldiers of China who are lovingly but illegally operating the Panama Canal." So that was his first dig at the story we were talking about earlier. So he's continuing this push about the Panama Canal. He then went on to say also to Governor Justin Trudeau of Canada, whose citizens' taxes are far too high. But if Canada was to become the 51st state, meaning if they were absorbed into the U.S., their taxes would be cut by more than 60%. Their businesses would immediately double in size, and they would be militarily protected like no other country anywhere in the world. And then he said, likewise to the people of Greenland, which is needed by the United States for national security purposes, and who want the U.S. to be there, and we will. And you remember he talked last time about Greenland too, right, Adam?
Yeah, he jokingly said that he was, going to buy it or we should buy Greenland. You know what's weird about this is, he obviously knows that there's going to be headlines about all this. Is he saying this as a complete joke? But the three things he connects Greenland, he connects China, and he connects Canada. First of all, I have talked about, Canada as far as Trudeau. Trudeau has actually kind of kissed Xi's butt. Trudeau said that he really respects the leader, and that says he was jealous of Xi Jinping because Xi Jinping can get things done with no bureaucracy, right? That he specifically, I think he was talking about, climate stuff and saying, they've got the best rates and it's because they have no bureaucracy. If they want something to happen, they have it. Well, as far as this goes, I think it's really interesting that he goes into the wonderful soldiers of China, then directly goes right into talking about Canada. Is there some sort of hidden message? Now, I'm not saying there is, but again, there are some people that looked at this and said, that's kind of odd. And then to mention Greenland in that order, China, soldiers, Canada, and then talking about taking Greenland. I haven't heard too many people talk about this, but in our community, I've definitely heard folks talking about this as kind of a weird message, and it's kind of off the cuff, right? But as far as if you take it at face value, even if you take it like that, it's talking about, well, what if we took Canada over and they were our 51st state? I mean, that's pretty huge, right? But as far as that goes, I don't know. You almost kind of see this as people in Canada are already pissed. If you haven't talked to Canadians recently, they're not exactly happy with Trudeau. And there is something that is going on right now. He has suggested, let's go over the Greenland thing, and I want to point out the Canadian thing. But he has suggested that the United States should retake control of the Panama Canal for reasons of national security and trade. He also has reportedly been considering attempted purchase of Greenland, which is owned by Denmark. In a recent meeting with Trudeau, President T-Man reaffirmed his decision to impose a steep tariff on all Canadian imported goods, which I think is really interesting because the other tariffs are on China. Is there some sort of weird connection there? Of course, Canada, I've talked about years ago when they did this weird treaty with China that essentially allowed China, if they have property or if they have something that is important to the main government of China in Canada, that they would be able to go into Canada without telling as much as a sheriff what they were doing. They didn't have to tell anybody as far as if they came into the country, if they went to their property, and if they needed to protect it militarily or anything else, that they would not have to tell Canada. They wouldn't have to tell any local officials, nothing. So a lot of people back then took that as, well, they could be training soldiers in Canada. They could literally have a farm, 1,000 acres, training soldiers or something. All over the internet and our community, that circulated for a long time, talking about this treaty. So I think it's kind of strange that they are doing the tariffs and who the tariffs are on. Allegedly, when Trudeau warned that such tariffs would crash the Canadian economy and lead to the nation's total collapse, T-Man joked that perhaps Canada should become the 51st instead, hence the nickname Governor Trudeau. So, and then again, following the joke, Trudeau's government has fallen into crisis with the resignation of his deputy prime minister and multiple opposition parties calling for a vote of no confidence, which would trigger a snap election that would see Trudeau finally ousted from power. Now, do you think that that's actually going to happen? I don't know. It seems like the Trudeau family is kind of like the Hillary and Bill of Canada. So again, I'm not as familiar with Canada as I am with the U.S., but one thing I am sure of is my opinion of Trudeau. All right, and then Finland boards oil tanker suspected of causing internet and power cable outages. Now, my personal opinion about the underwater cables, there's a lot of distractions going on. There's a lot of Ganda going on. The underwater cables, though, I think that is something to pay attention to because it seems like they are testing, knocking these things out. And by they, I don't know which governments are doing it. I don't know which three-letter agencies are doing it. But I could completely see our connection with Europe cut. These specifically look like they have a war footing because this is between Finland and Estonia. Dex, as far as the underwater cables, the authorities ended up going on this ship and seized a ship carrying Russian oil. And what did this thing do, and why did they do it?
They think it's, well, first off, the ship is potentially being used to get around embargoes and ship oil out. That's one thing. But the other thing is that it's been dragging, or they suspect it was dragging its anchor, much like the Chinese ship that they had blamed about 3 or 4 weeks ago for a similar cable cut. So if this is yet again, we're seeing these commercial ships potentially dragging anchors to intentionally break or damage lines, whether it's power lines, internet lines, or both.
One thing I wonder is if all of these different cables are different kinds of underwater cable strategies. What I mean by that is there different ways to do this? As far as an engineering standpoint, when you put cables like this underwater, are all of the different examples different kinds of construction or tubing? Are that one from the 60s, one from the 80s, one from the 90s? As far as when they constructed it, has technology advanced? Were these all individual tests of how they could do it if this kind of ship could do it? Because the one thing I wonder is, say if you did want to do this eventually, if there was ever a chance that the U.S. would be invaded, or they just wanted to cut the U.S. off from Europe, if you wanted to EMP us, knock down our communications, and then also knock down our hardline connection with Europe, you would do it all at once. Now that they've been cutting cables all over the world, obviously there's heightened security on the underwater cables between us and Europe. But I just wonder, like, why would they do all these test runs if they are test runs, or if these are intentional? Why would they do that? Then, hence, alarming all of these countries. Every country is going to start looking at them a whole lot more, unless there's some sort of reason to it. Is it just a sheer annoyance? Because strategically, if they did eventually want to go to war with the U.S. or didn't want to go to war with the U.S., they would want to be able to cut those cables. Well, if they do this now, this could be, making the U.S. aware, Europe aware, other countries aware, and now they might come up with some way to stop it from happening, or watch even closer and maybe it will stop happening. I don't know. But really, Dex, the thing is, these can be cut by any kind of oil tanker. It seems now that any kind of oil tanker, big anchored ship can take out communications like this.
Certainly seems that way, and it just makes you wonder if there's going to be a strategic setup when the time is right to strike them all, to just hit them with a whole lot of commercial ships dragging anchors everywhere.
It also could be a setup if we have a ship, say, painted like another ship, drag an anchor, knock out a major line at the same time as a separate event. That could quickly get us into a war. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. And again, join us for our main show. We're going to talk about the rest of the news over on Marfoogle TV. If you're in the chat, just stay here. You'll be ported over. Make sure to thank your mods in the chat by dropping an M, and go check them out on marfooglenews.com/friends. Also, again, if you want that link one more time, marfooglenews.com/EMP. And you guys have a wonderful night. We'll see you in just a minute. If you are watching the replay, all you have to do to get to that next show is click here. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out.